Hey everyone, and welcome to Faith. My name is Kendall, and we are so glad that you have decided to join us today. We believe that even if you don't believe what we believe, or if you feel like your life is just way too messy to step foot in a church, you belong here. We're a community of broken people who are all on a journey toward Jesus. So you belong in the family. Wherever you may be watching from and whoever you may be watching with, we are so grateful that you've decided to spend the next 45 minutes with us today as we sing a few songs together and hear a message from Pastor Matt starting a brand new series called It's Complicated. If you're new with us today, we want to welcome you to Faith Church. We're so glad you're here and we would love to connect with you this week. All you have to do is head to faithauburn.info and click the link that says Connect Card, and someone will be in touch this week. We would love for you to share this stream on your social media. This is one of the simple ways to share the good news of Jesus with your friends and family members. If you're ready to partner with us financially, the best way to do that is simply by going to faithauburn.info and clicking the button that says Give. You can give a one-time gift, or you can have a scheduled regular gift set up as well. Without your generosity, we could not do what we do, so thank you. And lastly, and most importantly, we want you to connect in two ways today. Number one, to connect with God. And to do that, you might need to set aside some distractions. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb, gather the family, and do whatever you need to do to stop, lean in, and reconnect with your Heavenly Father today. The second way we'd encourage you to connect today is to connect with others. You are not meant to be alone. God created you to connect with other people, and you can do that with others in the chat. But there's nothing like being in person surrounded by other people in community. So we invite you to attend one of our in-person services happening at 11 a.m. on Sundays, with our kids services happening during the 11 a.m. service as well. And with all that being said, our weekend experience is here, and it all starts right now.
Thank you so much for joining us wherever you are. Please just worship and sing these couple songs with us. When all I see is the battle, you see my victory. All I see is the mountain. You see a mountain moved. And as I walk through the shadows, your love surrounds me. Yeah. the shadows. You win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows. You win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows. You win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. So when I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you, and every fear I lay at your feet. I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Oh God, the battle belongs to you.
I've searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. And man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together. And every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid, no, to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. And there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, God. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing, nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who
Hey everyone, and once again, welcome to Faith. My name is Kendall, and here are the top 3 things happening inside Faith Church right now. First is Alpha. Alpha is a series of sessions exploring the Christian faith, typically run over 11 weeks. Each talk looks at a different question around faith and is designed to create conversation. Alpha is for anyone, no matter where you're at on your journey. Classes will be held in our Student Center on Sundays at 9 a.m. starting February 6th. Sign up at faithauburn.info. Second is Financial Peace University. FPU is a 9-lesson money management class taught by financial guru Dave Ramsey. Dave and his teaching team will walk you through the basics of budgeting, dumping debt, planning for the future, and much more. The Zoom class will be held at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday nights starting February 15th. Visit faithauburn.info to sign up. And third is our Dollar Missions Fund. Every month we invite 100% of you to go over, above, and regular support to give $1 to our Dollar Missions Fund. We then give 100% of it away to our missions partner of the month. This month goes to a school in Côte d'Ivoire for training pastors in West Africa. To give, visit faithauburn.info and click on Dollar Missions Fund or text $1 to 84321. Thank you for helping us go above and beyond in our support for this cause. Let's check out this video from them right now.
Hi, my name is Melody Nelson, and I'd like to tell you a story we just heard about someone we taught in West Africa. Wayne and I served for 31 years with World Venture, most of the time in Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. In 2010, we moved to Korhogo in the north of the country in order to teach English at Institut Biblique Bethel, a small school for training pastors. While there, we were able to join the church that had begun in the Bible School Chapel, Tegere Baptist Church. Students help out in the local churches as they go through their 4 years of training. During our last 2 years at the school, one of the students was Soro Paganina. We remember him as a tall leader, but he was a sickly baby. His mother was told that a curse had been put on him. She went from one fetisher to another, and finally one of the local healers told her that the only thing that would save her baby was to go see the missionary nurse in the small town of Wolo. The nurse and her husband prayed with her, and she accepted Christ. She had a brother who had accepted Christ through the work of another dispensary, so she had some Christian support. God kept his hand on Paganina, and even though he only had a 5th grade education, called him to Bible school. Just before we left in 2014, the church was able to purchase land at the edge of town so it could grow beyond the church chapel. Paganina graduated from IBB in 2016 and stayed on to work at Tegere under the guidance of Pastor Keo Konyo, director of the Bible school and first pastor of the church. And just recently, Paganina was installed as their new full-time pastor. The missionary nurse who led Paganina's mother to the Lord all those years ago just heard this story. And there are many more stories we won't hear until eternity. Our dollar missions fund for February will go to Institut Biblique Bethel to help train more local pastors for the many churches who desperately need them.
Well, welcome to part 1 of this new series that we're in called It's Complicated, and today's message is called The Right Person. You know, much of this sermon is based off of a message given by Andy Stanley. He's a pastor down in Georgia at North Point churches, and he did a series on this topic called Love, Dates, and Heartbreaks, and today's message is largely adapted from one of his talks that he gave out of that series, so I owe large credit to him. And so this series is for students who are wanting to or hoping to date, singles who are dating, married people who are wanting to make their marriages better, people who used to be married and now you're single again, you're jumping back into the scary and intimidating dating pool later in life, and it's not like it was when you were 18 and you're trying to just find your bearings in the middle of the sea. Even if you're not single, or if you're single, let's say, even if you're single and you're not looking to mingle, this series is for you too, and I hope that you'll stick around for it, because if you're like me, your heart breaks when you look around and see people making decisions that complicate their already complicated relationships. I mean, it's already complicated enough. Why add more complications to it? And I think we've all seen someone make a decision in a relationship or pursue a relationship, and you know, we've all had that thought, like, when you're talking to that person, have you thought this through? I mean, have you ever seen that work before? Yeah, maybe it works in the movies, but have you ever seen that work in real life? And it's easy for us to spot that in other people and the relationships that they have, but it's so much harder to see it in yourself, the person in the mirror. Why? Because love can make you drunk. Love is intoxicating. And you know this. I mean, I don't have to tell you about the scientific research behind this, but if you were ever a teenager and were girl crazy or boy crazy, or you went on a date and then you woke up the next morning to see a text and your heart skipped a beat. Like love is a drug. And just like being intoxicated can make you lose your inhibitions and do stupid things, being drunk in love can cause you to make relationship decisions that ultimately undermine and complicate your already complicated relationships. And this breaks my heart. That's why I want to do this series. But my heart breaks over this other group of people too. And some of you are out there, you're watching right now, and I don't know how you'd identify yourself, but you're kind of like serial daters, and you like to play the field. You just like the game of dating. You're in it for the fun, and the names change. You don't even give your real name anymore. You make up stories about who you are and what you do. You have a PhD in astrophysics, but you can't even spell that. And you're not always honest, and you don't always follow through. You say like, I'll call you or I'll text you, but you never do. And if anyone ever sits down with you to have the define the relationship talk, you say, you just defined it. It's over. and you're just in it for the fun, the sport of it, the sex. And if a date doesn't end in sex, you chalk it up as a failure. And that's your life. And I don't have to tell you how to live your life. It's not my business. But you might not love this series. I'm just going to give you that up front. This might not be something you're like really excited about. In fact, you might be tempted to tune me out and turn me off right now. But I would just encourage you to keep listening, because there might be a day, maybe a long ways out, maybe shorter than you might think, when you decide you do want to settle down. And this might be groundbreaking for you, but your present will become your past, which will catch up to your future. Let me say that again. Your present right now, this is groundbreaking. This is like, crazy. Your present is going to become your past, which is going to catch up to your future. And I don't want you to feel like you have to be a liar, like you have to hide certain parts of your story. I don't want you to be a liar who has to hide things from your future spouse someday because you're embarrassed and ashamed. I don't want you to be in the grocery store someday with your wife, your husband, and you see your past come walking down the aisle and you say, hey, honey, I think we're done in this aisle. Let's go to the next aisle. But we need bread. Well, forget the bread. We're going gluten-free. You just have to get in a different aisle. But even more, I don't want you to be a hypocrite. And what I mean is this, that if someone did to your sister what you do to the women you date, you'd want to do something to them, right? If someone did to your single mom or your niece what you do to the women that you interact with, you wouldn't hold back your wrath. I don't want you to be a hypocrite who expects one thing from other people but doesn't live the same way themselves. In fact, that's the reason you don't come to church, because it's full of hypocrites. So please, by all means, don't join the church. But I also want to talk to ladies, and I'm not a lady, so I know I need to tread carefully here. And I know I'm making generalizations, but just bear with me here. Women, I want you to know your worth. And some of you don't know how valuable you are. Maybe your dad didn't say it enough when you were growing up, so you're looking for approval and love in all the wrong places. And you put yourself out there and you post something on Instagram or TikTok that shows maybe a lot of skin, and you're hoping to get noticed and get liked, commented on. You go on a date with a guy and you don't want to lose the opportunity to be in a relationship with this guy, so you feel pressured to do something with him just to keep him around. But women, I want you to know how valuable you are, not because of what guys will say about you when you walk by based off of how much, but rather based off of how much your Heavenly Father loves you. You see, when you know your worth, you'll stop giving people discounts. When you know your worth, you stop giving people discounts. I want my daughters to grow up in a world where they know their worth and their value based off of what their Heavenly Father says about them, but confirmed by the way that men treat them. That's where my heart breaks. And so my heart breaks for some of you guys, my heart breaks for some of you women. And today, as we jump into this, we're gonna uncover 2 myths today. And these myths they're subconscious assumptions that many of us have when it comes to dating and relationships. And these myths, they affect your decisions. And you don't even realize that they're affecting your decisions. That's why they're subconscious. But these two myths inform your decisions. You don't even realize that they're informing your decisions. So once I uncover these myths, you're going to realize how crazy and ridiculous they seem. But these two relational myths inform so many of our decisions in our culture, and our culture just kind of reinforces them. And so we're going to talk about them one at a time. And this first myth is this, the right person myth. And this myth is not that there's not a right person for you. The right person myth is that once you meet the right person, everything will be all right. And all the married people said, yeah, right. See, the myth is that I can do whatever I want. I can date whoever I want. I can treat people however I want. But once I meet the right person, everything will change and everything will be all right. And you'll look at that person in the eyes and you say, you complete me. And so you think that the problem is, I just haven't met the right person yet. All right? If you're single, I just haven't met them yet. Or you did meet them and you moved in with them, or you're married to them, and now things don't seem all right anymore after a couple months or years, and you start to wonder, maybe I chose the wrong right person. And now you're looking for the next right person. And this sounds ridiculous, right? When I put this on a screen here, it sounds ridiculous, but this myth informs so many of our relationship decisions, whether you're dating or you're working through a divorce. But the other assumption that we make surrounding this myth is that once I meet the right person, not only will everything else be all right, but I'll be all right. That everything that's broken inside of me will be made right when I meet this person. That once I have a wife, well, I won't look at porn anymore. I won't need that. Once I have a husband, well, all my financial issues will just be fixed, and all of that insecurity that I had will just be gone if I just meet the right person, because it'll fill that void within me. But if you've been married long enough, you know that those issues, they don't just go away. You know, I like to think of it this way. There's really no such thing as marital issues, as marriage issues. Any marriage issue is just two single people with their own issues coming together in a relationship. And then their issues intertwining. It just makes things messier. And so this myth lies to us and tells us that more than becoming a better person, we just need to find the right person. And it's a myth. It's a lie, but it makes for great entertainment, right? I mean, the boy meets girl, girl meets boy, and you know they're supposed to be together, but it takes them an hour and a half to finally figure it out and get together. And once they get together, the movie's over. And we love being entertained by people falling in love, but we don't necessarily see what happens after they fall in love and the happily ever after. You know, I think it would be pretty cool to have like post-credit scenes like they do in the Marvel movies, but like in rom-com movies instead. And the couple is fighting over which restaurant they're going to go out to. And, you know, it's like Jim and Kelly will return in Outback or Olive Garden. Like, I would stay for that. That would be exciting to see them battle it out and fight it out. But falling in love is easy. Staying in love requires so much more. And this series is about that so much more. Now, the second myth is called the promise myth. So we have the right person myth and the promise myth. And this myth says that when it comes to successful and fulfilling relationships, all we need to do is make a promise. And ultimately it means this, that a promise replaces the need for preparation. A promise replaces the need for preparation. You can commit, promise, or vow yourself into a satisfying relationship, and that everything that came before this relationship, before this promise, everything will just be overcome through simply making a promise and having a big party. You know, you stand at the altar, you make a promise, and then you have a big party, and the past is erased, and you can promise your way into your future with this person. But let me just say, you know that this can't be true, because promises are never a substitute for preparation in any other arena of life. I mean, we know this in every other area of our lives. We know this in the classroom. You can't promise your way to a degree. You have to study. You have to work at it. We know this in sports. You never hear a team in the locker room before the game say, okay, guys, I know our practice drills have been horrible, and this week we just haven't put enough practice and time in. But let's all just make a promise right now to go win this game today. Let's all go out on this field and just promise that. No, we know this in our business lives, that if you want to make money, you have to work at it. But when it comes to relationships, for some reason, we think that we just need to believe that we can vow our way into this relationship, into this future, and the past won't come with us. It'll just be erased. But here's the thing. Promises are overrated. I do doesn't mean I can. And you know this. You've been to weddings where they say, and do you promise to take her as your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold in the sickness and health as long as you both shall live? I do. And you're in the back, you're like, you know it's not going to work out. You've maybe seen this couple, the way that they argue with each other. Like, you just know, yeah, okay, it was a great ceremony, and the party was great, the celebration. But you're in the back thinking this isn't going to work out because they're not prepared. They're not prepared because they haven't worked through their bad habits, so they haven't, really worked through their selfishness or their addictions. And you can't just kind of vow your way into a successful future. You have to prepare. And saying I do doesn't make you capable. It makes you accountable. And when you're accountable, but not capable, you're miserable. And you don't want to be miserable. You want to be able to be successful in your relationships. And so, more than a promise, we need preparation for our relationships. Because if you're not preparing, this is huge. This is mind-blowing. If you're not preparing, you won't be prepared. I know, it's common sense, but when it comes to relationships, common sense is not so common. And if you're single, I want you to be prepared. And I want you to start preparing now for the promise that you'll make then. And for those in a relationship, maybe you're married or you've kind of moved in together with somebody else, and I want you to start preparing now. If you feel like your relationship just isn't what it should be, the way to fix it is not just by you just need to go back to the beginning and try to fall in love again. No, what got you here won't keep you here. There is a way forward, and that's why we're doing this series. That's what this is all about. And so the question that you and I need to answer today, if you're single and you're trying to find the right person, is, are you the person you're looking for is looking for? Are you the person you're looking for is looking for? See, more than finding the right person, we need to become the right person. And if you're married, the question for you is this: are you still the person that they were looking for? Are you still the person that they thought they were entering that relationship with? Or did kids and money and stuff and busyness and business, did it all get in the way of that relationship? Are you still the person that they thought that they were entering this relationship with? Are you still that person? And so how do we become the right person? And let me just tell you, this is where the message of Jesus comes alive, because following Jesus will help you become the kind of person that the person you're looking for is looking for. Following Jesus will help you become the kind of person that your future spouse is hoping for you to be. It will make you a better person, a better boyfriend, a better girlfriend, a better fiance, a better husband, wife, a better future husband, wife, whatever. In fact, even if you don't believe that Jesus is the Son of God, you could still follow him. You see, there were a lot of people who followed Jesus before they believed that he was who he said he was. And one thing that we like to say around here a lot is that you belong here before you believe what we believe or behave how we behave. And so whether or not you believe Jesus to be the Son of God, his words that we're going to read today have the ability to make your relationships better and make you better at relationships. I hope that you'll lean in and really listen. See, we can't even begin to imagine the culture that Jesus was stepping into in that first century that he stepped into. Prostitution was a way of life. It was birth control for the Romans and the Greeks, because if they didn't want to add kids to their family and kind of have to divide their wealth, well, they would just go out and find a prostitute. That was their birth control. And this was the culture that Jesus steps into in order to really speak this message out there. And in that day, It was common for men to have multiple wives, concubines, and slaves. And Jesus steps into that culture of selfishness, of self-centeredness, this culture where women were objects that you were to gain, in order to have as many as you can, but it's not vice versa. And this culture where it's all about me and my needs, Jesus steps in and he introduces a brand new relational paradigm. And it's really not all that complicated when it comes down to it. In a world of complex and complicated relationships, it's complicated. Jesus shows us a way to approach our relationships that is simple, compelling, demanding, but also rewarding. And what we're going to encounter today can hopefully just kind of clear some of that confusion and complexity of our complicated relationships and help us to see what we can do to disentangle the complexity of it all. And so here's the thing, even if you're not a Christian, even if you want nothing to do with Jesus, you're gonna want the message of Jesus to be true, even before you believe that it's true. Because it's almost too good to be true. It almost is too good to be true. In fact, it might be too good to be true unless Jesus is who he claimed to be. And here at Faith, we believe that Jesus is who he claimed to be, not because of what he said, but because of a singular event that confirmed it. And that is his resurrection. That's what Easter is all about. And his resurrection changed everything. And on the other side of his resurrection, Jesus, his approach to relationships makes sense. And that's what we're going to read about today. So toward the end of Jesus' ministry, he's gathered with his disciples, the 12 men who have been following him for 3 years. And this is kind of his last speech to them before he's arrested and taken away. Kind of like, if you forget everything else I've taught you, remember this. So it's all been building to this point. And at the end of his speech, Jesus is going to give us a framework through which we should approach all of our relationships. And then we're going to come back next week and kind of tease that out further, what that actually looks like. But today we're going to really be introduced to this relational paradigm. And Jesus begins this way. He says, I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. Now, this is a parable. Jesus told a lot of parables, and a parable is a story that involves different people. And Jesus told this to his original audience that they would have understood this at face value. They understood gardening and vines because that was part of their culture. But these stories, they symbolized a truth that Jesus was trying to communicate. And so he says that he is the vine and that God is the gardener. And then he says this. He says, he, God, cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. So why is he talking about fruit? See, the goal of our lives is to bear fruit. I mean, that's the goal of the disciples' lives. And that's what he's saying, is that in me, you will bear fruit. I, Jesus, want to bear fruit through you. And he's going to tell us how we do that. But before we go on, let me just say this. Your life is bearing fruit. Like, everybody bears fruit, whether it's good fruit or bad fruit. And so all of us, what is fruit? It's really the outcome of our relationships. It's the outcome of our decisions. It's your relationships, whether good or bad. It's that financial security or that financial debt. It's the stories that you tell about yourself. It's the stories that people tell about you when you're not around. And all of us bear fruit, whether good or bad. And Jesus is saying, I want to bear fruit through you. There's a specific kind of fruit I want to see. And he goes on to tell them how. And notice just how relational this language is. He says this, remain in me, as I also remain in you. Remain in me. It's this idea of abiding, of kind of staying plugged in, staying close to Jesus, connected to him, following him. Why? Because as you do this, as you remain in me, no branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. See, this isn't rocket science. If you take a branch off of a tree or a vine, what does it do? It dies. and it can't produce any more fruit. It can't produce any buds, anything. And so Jesus is speaking it plainly to his disciples now, and he says this, neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. So Jesus is saying, if you want to bear good fruit, you have to stay connected to me. If you want the outcome of your life and your relationships to be better, you have to follow me. And in case you still aren't hearing this, guys, I'm going to speak it even more plainly to you disciples, and that's what Jesus is saying. He says this, I am the vine, and you are the branches. All right, are you tracking here? Do you understand the relationship? I'm the vine, you are the branches, and if you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. See, you're going to bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. He's making a promise here. It's an incredible promise. He's saying, if you follow me, you're going to bear much fruit. Your life will be better. Your relationships will be better if you stay plugged into me. But just like a branch that's broken off can't produce fruit, apart from Jesus, you can't do a thing. And that sounds harsh, but there's this buzzword today called manifestation. Maybe you've heard of it. It's kind of like this Oprah Winfrey word. It's like this idea that you can just manifest something good in your life if you just believe it and expect it and just believe that it's going to happen. You can manifest joy in your life. You can manifest a better marriage by just simply believing in it. But what's Jesus saying here? He's saying that we can read all like the self-help books and try to believe all the right things, and you can Google tips on, how can I improve my marriage? And all that's good and well. But apart from Jesus, none of that matters. We can't do a thing apart from him. Our relationships will not bear good fruit because the roots are not in the right place and in the right source. But if you follow Jesus, if you stay connected to him, one day you're going to wake up, you're going to realize I've become a different person. I've become a new person, a better person. And Jesus goes on to say this. He says, as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. It kind of feels like Jesus changed the subject here. He's like what we were talking about, like fruit and gardening and vines, and now you're talking about love. But what's Jesus saying here? He's saying, God has loved me, and I am passing that love on to you. And I want you to remain in that love. It's the same love that God has given me, the Father's given me, I have given you, and I want you to stay plugged into that love. Now, the word remain here is the same Greek word that he uses when he's talking about the vine and the branches, like remain in me. And so Jesus is saying, when you remain in me, you remain in my love. They're equivalent. Stay connected to me, stay connected to my love for you, which is the same love that the Father has for you. And then Jesus says this, if you keep my commands, you will remain in my love. Okay, there it is, commands. Like I knew it was a bait and switch. Like I thought this was just like, we're talking about this fuzzy stuff about love and Jesus being my Valentine, but now I have to follow rules and I have to obey these commands. Like all of us, if you grew up in the Catholic Church, the 10 Commandments, and if I just follow these rules, well, then God will approve of me and he'll love me. It's just, that's the reason I don't go to church. That's the reason I'm not a part of the church, because I don't want to follow these rules, right? And like wherever you stand with the 10 Commandments and all that, but before you write this off, just let Jesus finish his speech here, because he's not done. And here's where it all changes. It all has the potential to change. And here's where some of you who don't believe, you might want to believe after this next part. Jesus says this, my command is this. I thought you were talking about multiple commands, Jesus, but he's saying my command, singular command, nothing else. So Jesus, you're saying it all boils down to this one thing? Right. My command is this, love each other. Okay, yeah, we've heard that before, Jesus. Love each other. Love your neighbor as yourself. It's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Like we've heard this before. We don't have to write this down, Jesus. We know this. We learned this in school growing up. Treat others as you would want to be treated. But Jesus isn't done. He said, this isn't just about like love the one you're with, love your friends. Let's all just get along and sing kumbaya. This is like a very specific kind of love. It's a vine and branch kind of love. And I don't want you to just love generally. I'm talking about a very specific kind of love. And I want you to love in this way. As I have loved you. See, I want you to love others in the same way that I have loved you. And that night, those disciples had kind of some idea of what Jesus was talking about. I mean, they had known Jesus for 3 years. They left their lives to follow him. They followed him around for those 3 years. They had no idea, however, what he was about to do to demonstrate that. Because a few days after this speech, Jesus would put on a demonstration of this love that would take their breath away, because it ultimately took his breath away. And on the other side of the resurrection, they understood what Jesus was talking about. It's like, that's the kind of love that you're talking about. This isn't like a permissive, like love however you want to love, like all you need is love. This is a specific kind of love that involves laying down your life for the other person. This is a specific kind of love where you put the other person first. This is the kind of love where you consider the benefit of the other person over your own benefit. This is the kind of love where you forgive regardless of what has been done to you. It's the kind of love where I do to you as God has done for me and to me. This is what it means to abide and remain in Jesus. See, relationships, they're complicated. It's complicated. But how you untangle the complexity of them, this new way of living and loving can do that. See, as you spend time in a relationship with Jesus, you begin to learn how to love as he loved. You begin to allow his love to flow into you and through you to the people around you that you have relationships with. You know, St. Augustine, in response to Jesus' teachings on this topic of love, he boiled it all down to this, and he said this: love and do whatever you want. Love and do what thou wilt. See, because when you allow this specific kind of love to be your framework for your relationships, not some general love however you want to love, but a specific kind of love that requires laying your life down for other people, when this is your framework for all of your relationships, whether you're a spouse or a parent or a boyfriend or girlfriend, when this love becomes the framework for all of your relational decisions, you'll figure everything else out. Because this is the filter through which you filter things. And this is how you become a person worth looking for. Instead of trying to find the right person to magically kind of change your life, and you just make this promise, you don't prepare. Instead, this is the preparation that you do to become the type of person. Instead of believing the myth that you don't need to prepare and become a certain type of person, that once you find the right person, everything will be different. Instead of all that, Jesus is saying, follow me, remain connected to me, abide and remain in my love, and I will show you how to love. And as you remain connected to me, and as you love as I have loved you, you will bear fruit in your relationships. And you will become someone worth finding, someone worth looking for. This is how you become a person worth staying for. This is how you prepare for the day that you make that promise, but this is how you prepare to keep promising and to keep committing to that marriage and that relationship that you're in. It's how you make whatever relationship you're in better, because as you become a better person, others will follow. Let me just say that this works. This isn't just like a theory. This really works. And countless marriages and lives have been changed by just loving as Christ has loved them. Loving as Christ has loved them. This works. This really does work. I was just talking to a woman in our church the other day. She was telling me that she was previously in a place where her marriage was a wreck. I mean, she and her husband were always fighting, always arguing and bickering. And she said it was hard just to get through the day. And in past relationships, she would have just run away. If things got tough, just run away. Just fight or flight. She did both of them, but she would flee and just run away and break the relationship. But she called a friend before she did that. Before she decided to whatever, she called a friend. And this friend was a follower of Jesus. And this friend told her that instead of leaving the marriage, she needed to get herself right with God. And so this woman, she started to remain connected to Jesus, like the vine and the branches. And at that time, she believed that if she did that, if she prayed and spent time with God, that God would change her husband, that God would change her kids, God would change everyone else around her, that he'd make her husband more loving and kind. But what she didn't realize was that God's mission was to change her first. And her husband would throw hurtful words at her. And in those moments, because she was connected to Jesus, she sensed God saying to her, love him more. Love him more. Love my husband more. And she started to actually demonstrate Jesus' love for her to her husband. She would come home, and he'd throw hurtful words at her. She'd make him dinner. She'd compliment him. She'd do nice things for him, not so he would reciprocate it, but because it's how God loved her. And she stopped complaining. She started loving. And as a result, her marriage was transformed to the point where her husband recently said to her, you saved our marriage because you loved me when I was unlovable. And her response is, I didn't save our marriage. Jesus saved our marriage because he changed me. This is how you become a person worth looking for and a person worth staying for. And so whatever relationship that you find yourself in, my prayer for you today is that you would take this simple step today of saying, I'm going to trust, I'm going to lean in closer, I'm going to abide, I'm going to remain in Jesus. Maybe you've never given thought to Jesus' ways. And like I said, Jesus can make your relationships better, and he can make you better at relationships. So why not give him a try? Why not say, today I'm going to follow Jesus. Today I'm going to try this out, and I'm going to just see where it takes me. Take him up on this challenge. He's inviting you. He's saying, follow me, remain in me, stay connected to me, plugged into me. And I would just encourage you to take that step today. Let's pray. Father, I just pray for our church. I pray for the people in our church and this body of believers who are in marriages that are struggling, that they're in these relationships where there's fighting and arguing and defending. And I just pray, God, that you would do a mighty work in wives' lives and in husbands' lives as you transform them one person at a time. And that when two broken people in a broken relationship start to work on themselves and really remain and connect to you, that anything is possible and you can heal that relationship. So God, I just pray for these marriages. I pray that you give them mentors around them that can encourage them, remind them. God, I pray for those in our church who are divorced and they're getting back into this place and they're trying to figure out what's next for them. And I just pray that above trying to find the right person to fill that void, that they would just lean into you, that they would know that there's no one that can fill that void within them except you. So God, that they would just lean into you. I pray for some of our young people, God, who are searching and trying to find the right person and trying to figure out dating. Maybe they're serial daters, or maybe they're, they don't understand their worth and they're trying to find love in all the wrong places. God, I pray for these people, these young people, God, who are just searching and seeking and longing for fulfillment and belonging and love. And I pray that they would find that first and foremost in you. And that as they find that in you, that everything else would change. God, I pray for anybody today who is maybe on the fence about following you, like they've been watching and attending for some time, but they've never given thought to actually surrendering to you. And I pray that today would be an opportunity for them to do that. And it's simple. It's simple. And all involved is just saying, God, I recognize I need you. I recognize I'm a sinner. I recognize that I'm broken and I need someone to come into my life and to put the pieces back together. It's complicated, not only relationships, but just being single and a single person is complicated. So God, continue to just work in my life. I give you my life today, Jesus. I surrender to you. I follow you. Change me. Help me to become the kind of person that the person I'm looking for is looking for. God, may there be all our prayers today. We pray this in your precious and your holy name. Everybody said, amen. Hey, thanks for watching. Next week, we're going to pick it up further with this commandment of loving as we've been loved and what that actually looks like in practical application. So we'll see you next week. God bless.
Thank you again for joining us today. We believe that there's a next step for you to take today to further connect with God and others. If you're new with us today, we invite you to fill out a Connect card and let us know that you're new. You can do that by heading to faithauburn.info and clicking the link that says Connect Card. Another simple next step is to share this service to your own Facebook page. We believe that God has surrounded you with people who need the good news of Jesus. Sharing the service is a great way to start the conversation. Another way to further connect is by attending one of our in-person services, which happen on Sundays at 11 a.m. with our kids services happening for kids in preschool through 5th grade. For all signups and next steps, visit faithauburn.info, and we'd love to help you get connected this season. Thanks again for watching, and we hope you have a great week.